So, I've been having a small moral dilemma lately that maybe you guys and gals could help me out with. My inner child really wants to take these out of the box, but the rest of me's like, no, you absolutely need to keep them in the box. They're gonna be worth like $1 bajillion one day. You see what keeping the PDC's box does to a guy? What a journey it's been with these movies so far. Remember when Paramount dropped that first teaser poster at the end of 2018 and the entire internet, including myself, fucking panicked? We've truly come a long way since then. Like, I never thought I'd actually be at the point in my life where I can comfortably say, hey, I'm excited for the next Sonic movie. I was instantly hyped for Sonic 2 the moment it was revealed. As I said in my discussion video a few months ago, this movie looked to be more focused on Sonic and his world rather than the boring Hollywood human world. And it probably goes without saying already that I really enjoyed this movie. I've seen it twice already, and I'm happy to announce that if you enjoyed the first one, you're absolutely gonna love this one. I was super pumped to get to work on this video and share my thoughts with you all, but I didn't want to release it too soon last month, as I thought it's probably better to let more people see the film before I release a video basically spoiling the whole thing. Because Sonic told me right before the movie not to do that. Yes, Dad. Now, I have a lot to say about this film, as you've all probably guessed by now, so I'll try my best to prevent this video from getting messy. I'll put my best foot forward and start off by talking about some of the things I like, some stuff about the characters, then I'll move on to some things that I didn't like that much and or think could have been improved a bit, and then I'll touch upon some spoilerish stuff at the end, so do not fear, I will throw spoiler warnings up just before I get into those juicy details. Just a quick heads up before I start rambling, I will be delving into some minor spoilers throughout this video, so if you want to know next to nothing about this film, I'd suggest, well, I don't know, maybe go on and watch it first. But if you don't care about a few minor spoilers being mentioned here and there and or a few scenes being described, let's get into it. I made the effort to rewatch the first Sonic movie before jumping into the second one, just to see how it holds up these few years later. And yeah, it's still not too bad. The obvious thing to note here is that this movie was saved thanks to Paramount and SEGA actually listening to the outcry from, well, the entire fucking world. Tyson Hess is the name of our savior, as he was brought onto the project mid-2019 to redesign the titular hedgehog into something that didn't look like nightmare fuel. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. Oh my god, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That said though, I know you can't just rely on a character design to carry an entire movie. But even though the plot of the first Sonic movie was and still is kinda simple, the film is still perfectly watchable. The whole movie's pretty consistent with its tone, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it provides a bit of innocent fun for kids, fans, and families alike. Plus, even if they never changed Sonic's design, it was always a safe bet that Jim Carrey was gonna be a lot of fun to watch at least. I'm a little more lukewarm about the film as a whole today, now that it's had some time to simmer, but it's by no means a bad movie, and I still view it as a pretty good springboard into Sonic's journey onto the big screen. Like, they somehow turned what could have been the biggest shit show in cinema into something that was generally well received by fans and critics, so that alone is worth applauding if you ask me. Come April 8th, 2022, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 finally released. If you were in America. Yeah, for some reason the rest of the world got this movie at the tail end of March, whereas the US had to wait at least another week. FireAntoniyo, don't do it. Don't do it. I've seen that look before.
You're too slow!
I'll start off on a positive note. Right off the bat, I want to applaud the entire team who worked on this movie. The amount of love and care that went into this film is staggering, especially considering that this is a Hollywood video game adaptation. Sonic 2, compared to its 2020 predecessor, is such a huge step up in terms of, well, almost everything. And I'm beyond thankful that this movie even exists in the form it's in to begin with. There was so much fan service in this movie. I was like a kid in a candy shop noticing all the references and Easter eggs. Some in-your-face ones, and even some more obscure ones that only die-hard fans will pick up on. For the most part, there was always something happening in this movie to the point where I never got that bored, apart from one bit in the movie which I'll complain about later. Generally though, the movie was damn entertaining and a lot of fun to watch. For as corny as the jokes were, the movie still managed to get a fair few laughs out of me too. I did notice that they recycled a few jokes from the first movie, which was kinda lame, like the
Meow?
But they didn't rely on old material too much, so it wasn't too bad. Oh, and they made sure to put another flossing scene in the movie, so there's that. Sonic 2's plot was pretty much exactly what I predicted it to be, but honestly, anyone who's familiar with the Sonic lore probably saw it all coming a mile away. In fact, Jim Carrey even acknowledges this at one point in the movie, which I thought was pretty funny. But I didn't mind the simple plot, as the film was mostly a fun time. They still snuck in a few surprises that I wasn't expecting, but we'll get to those later. Now, I really want to touch upon the way that the characters were handled in this film. As a fan, I'm pretty satisfied overall with the way that Sonic and Co were portrayed, with only a few minor gripes here and there. Sonic didn't change all that much in this movie compared to the first. He was pretty much his same old self, just a kid trying to do good kind of attitude, and Ben Schwartz does a pretty good job portraying this side of him. Though to my surprise, he did actually have something of a character arc in this film. He starts off being reckless and immature, but by the end he takes full responsibility for his actions and tries to make things right with not only himself and his friends, but the safety of other people too. He made plenty of lame jokes and heaps of cheesy one-liners throughout the film, but that's just who Sonic is, and I wouldn't have him any other way. Jim Carrey absolutely crushed it in this film. I'm super glad to say that my trust in him with the role of Eggman/Robotnik was not misplaced. Every time the guy was on screen, he more often than not got a laugh out of me and the rest of the crowd. He managed to juggle that comical evil persona alongside an actual menacing side, and he pulls this off extremely well. I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Mike Pollock's Eggman, but I've grown very fond of Jim Carrey's version of the character. Which is a shame if Jim is retiring from acting, as I would have loved to have seen him grow into the character a little more for the third movie, but at least we can say he ended on a high. Also, he made an Uganda Knuckles reference like 5 minutes into the movie. I'm not sure if anyone else picked up on that, but I was just sitting there thinking, wow, they actually did it. He's like to Knuckles, I'd be happy to show you the way. My sense of humor is broken beyond repair. Speaking of, I am over the moon with how good Knuckles was in this movie. I was beyond glad to see him back in the boots of being an actual threat again, instead of how Sonic Boom handled him.
Oh gosh, you're cute!
I should note that by the end of the movie, he does kinda turn into that stereotype again, but in a more bearable fashion this time. Rather than being stupid per se, he's more out of touch with how the world around him now works. Which makes total sense considering he's supposed to be the last of his kind and he's been isolated for so long. I've always liked Knuckles as a character, but after this movie, I have a lot more appreciation for him. In my opinion, he was the most developed character in Sonic 2 and even stole the show on more than a few occasions. He even managed to get a lot of laughs out of me, which I wasn't expecting at all. Specifically, Robotnik and Knuckles together bounce off each other really well, and I thought as a duo, they were very well thought out in this movie. And of course, we have our boy, Miles Tails Prower, who was just the most adorable thing to witness in this movie. There's one standout scene where Tails falls asleep near a fireplace, then Sonic covers him with a blanket, and in return, Tails covers Sonic with his two massive fluffy tails. And I don't care who you are, that scene was f***ing adorable. I like the attention to detail he got too. Tails was always using his gadgets in really cool creative ways throughout the film. For instance, at the beginning of the movie, Tails was driving a police car and I couldn't help but think, how the hell can someone as small as him reach the pedals? Only for the film to show that he attached little gadgets to them. That was really cool and definitely makes Tails out to be the boy genius that he is. Though, I do have to say, I can't help but feel he was a little underdeveloped and overshadowed. I'll get more into this later in the video, but I really wanted the character to get a bit more attention than he did. As for Tom and Maddie, they were alright I guess. The plot just sort of shoves them aside in Hawaii for most of the movie, which is good in the sense that we get to spend more time with Sonic and co. But Tom and Sonic did spend most of the last movie together, so it was a bit strange to see how out of the picture he was this time around. The human characters do play a more significant role, I guess, to the point where they even have their own subplot involving Maddie's sister's wedding, but more on that later. The last human character to note is Agent Stone, and he was good, a little more involved in the plot than he was last time, and a lot more in love with Robotnik? I don't know about anyone else, but I think Stone is seriously infatuated with our antagonist, going as far as to draw his face in latte art coupled with little hearts, and even picking out his wardrobe in one scene later in the movie. Honestly, I'm surprised these two weren't getting married in the film. Now, it's no secret that I really enjoyed this movie, and I just love Sonic in general. I'm sure I've made that abundantly obvious by now. But I'm not blindsided. I want to be as fair as possible here, because believe it or not, there were still plenty of things in this movie that I didn't really like that much, so ha! You can't call me a biased weeb now!
But you are a weeb, FireAntoniyo. You own Honey Pop 1 and 2.
Smire, I swear to God. So now that I'm done gushing about the movie, allow me to detour into my gross adult critical mind for a few minutes. Despite how much fun I was having with the film, it does have a lot of glaring flaws that I feel are important to address. The biggest issue I had with Sonic 2 was its pacing. Now, compared to the first one, this movie was all over the goddamn place. The first act of the movie went by way too fast and missed a lot of opportunities to properly establish things. For instance, Sonic and Tails just instantly trust each other the moment they meet, despite having never met each other before. If you have pre-existing knowledge of these characters, it's not a huge deal. We all know Sonic and Tails are best buds, but for the people who aren't familiar, and if Sonic and Tails are just meeting for the first time in this movie's universe, it comes off feeling rushed. A lot of things were just explained instead of shown too. I was surprised by just how much exposition dumping there was throughout most of this movie. This includes Tails' own backstory and the very reason he's here with Sonic to begin with, the Master Emerald's backstory, and even the main goal was just explained to Sonic through a hologram message of Longclaw, which projected itself out of his paper map? Like, what? His map is magic? Act 2 had the opposite problem, as I feel it dragged its feet a lot of the time. It housed a lot of unnecessary scenes that I feel could have been better used to flesh out characters a little more in Act 1. About halfway through the movie, Sonic and Tails get tangled up in this really long and drawn out dance scene when they travel to Siberia. I understand it's a kids movie too, so there needed to be something to keep them engaged and whatnot, but it overstayed its welcome. Also, I've heard Uptown Funk 80,000 f***ing times now, so this scene was a pain in the ass to sit through. And another scene that really overstayed its welcome was the wedding scene, and if you've seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It started off pretty funny where Tom realized he didn't have the ring Sonic gave him, causing him to essentially crash the wedding and take the real ring from the groom so he could open a portal for Sonic. But then the scene carries on for a good 15 to 20 minutes longer, and Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik are just completely absent for a while. I understand they paid for these actors and needed a way to give them some screen time, but I just wish they thought of a better way to do it is all. The only good thing to come out of the wedding plotline is this is the movie's way of introducing the Guardian Units of Nation, or GUN for short, which, if you're familiar with the series, are the soldiers from Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow the Hedgehog. After the events of the first movie, the Olive Garden guy, yes, this guy, formed GUN to protect Earth from extraterrestrial threats. This, unfortunately, includes Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, or anything related to them. I thought this was awesome, and it was great to see GUN back in action after all these years. But the role they play in this wedding scene doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in hindsight. Let me explain. It's revealed that this is Rachel, soon-to-be husband, was only getting married to her as he was working undercover for GUN so they could capture Sonic. In Hawaii. At the wedding. Like GUN were expecting Sonic and Tails to be in Hawaii right then and there. Like, you see how nonsensical this is? Then when you think it's over, Maddie and Rachel end up working together to fight off the GUN soldiers to rescue Tom, Sonic, and Tails from being held captive. This drags on for even longer when Maddie and Rachel split, when we have to sit through another unrelated scene of Rachel getting revenge on Randall, this is Randall, for not actually marrying her. Only for Randall to have that, oh wait, I do love her moment. I was sitting there thinking, what the f*** happened to the movie? Why is this here? Anyway, I'm sorry for going on such a long tangent there, but I just felt the need to address it. That part of the movie just felt super shoved in and unnecessary and really messed with the already strange pacing of the film. I'll move on now though. Something else I'd like to discuss in more detail is the CG and VFX. I wasn't expecting stellar visual effects, the film didn't have the budget of an Avengers movie, but I think some of the CG needed a little more time in the oven. Don't get me wrong, some of the scenes and action set pieces, though digital, looked pretty good in this movie. The shots of Robotnik with all his mechs looks really cool, and the fight scene inside the Master Emerald's temple between Sonic and Knuckles looked great. But there were a fair amount of instances where I thought the visuals looked distractingly poor, and it killed my immersion on more than one occasion. There's one particular shot of Robotnik and Knuckles hovering over the snowy mountains in Siberia, and Jim Carrey looks comedically green screened in, to the point where I think I saw some little artifacts around the area where he was cropped into the shot. Like, I'm not even kidding, one of the shots looks exactly like this. Well, this was, stupid of me to wear a t-shirt in this weather.
Whoa, I can see the Leaning Tower of Pisa from here.
We're in Siberia, moron.
Oh, I thought we were in Africa.
Oh yeah, the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Africa. Common misconception. Sonic & Co. also looked a little funny next to the human actors at times too. This wasn't a regular occurrence, but there were a few standout shots that once you see it, it's a little hard to ignore. Like this shot from the trailer where Knuckles' tracking seems to be a little bit shaky with the camera movement. The animations were pretty solid for the most part, specifically in the action scenes. They looked great and were super expressive, but there were a few scenes where the characters seemed a little stiffer than they should have been. I do have a bit of a theory as to why the film's visuals may have suffered a little bit, and I think a lot of it stems from the artist's work environment. This film was shot during a pandemic, don't forget, so where I'm going with this is, for this film to have come out as quick as it did, the behind-the-scenes staff more than likely would have been working from home instead of an actual studio environment. Coming from someone who had to work on a lot of 3D projects from home during the pandemic, I can confirm it was a huge pain in the ass to work in teams sometimes. Because you're not in a shared workspace together, communicating becomes a lot more complicated, therefore making collaborative tasks a lot harder to complete. Quality assurance would have been a nightmare to do online, so it's no wonder that some small errors and imperfections may have slipped through the cracks, but despite their circumstances, I still think the team did a really good job with this movie. I could also be completely wrong on this theory, so don't take any of that as fact. I just thought, as a 3D artist and animator myself, I could maybe offer a unique perspective on the matter. Don't even get me started on Act 3 of this movie, because it was fucking incredible. I understand I was a little bit negative during those last couple of minutes, but I hope that illustrates the point that I'm not just blindly liking this movie. If anything, I believe the more you like something, the more open you should be about its flaws. That way things can improve later down the line. But I digress. I'll switch gears here so I can discuss the final act of this movie in high spirits. Now, this part of the video, I will be getting into a lot of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and don't want me to ruin it, either stop watching and come back once you've seen it, or you can skip to this part in the video. Ready? 3, 2, 1. So, exactly as I predicted, and I'm sure most of us saw coming, Robotnik goes on to betray Knuckles and gets a hold of the Master Emerald. This turns him into, well, Super Robotnik, I guess? It was explained earlier that the Master Emerald gives the user the ability to turn thoughts into power. Robotnik uses this to his advantage as he manipulates the Master Emerald's power to start ripping apart various vehicles and uses them to construct the fucking Death Egg robot. God, this scene was so cool. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles finally team up to take down Robotnik in a really cool fashion, might I add. The banter between characters while they fight alongside each other was really cool to see. It honestly made me feel like a kid again. There were some definite parallels to Sonic Heroes in this part of the movie. It just made me so giddy. Eventually, after a really fun and entertaining battle, Robotnik actually manages to get the upper hand on Sonic. Luckily, Tails and Knuckles manage to stun the Death Egg robot temporarily. Knuckles freaking punches the Master Emerald out of Robotnik, a la the beginning of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. God, that was such a cool reference. Then Sonic manages to take the Master Emerald, and just as Robotnik's about to finish off Tom, Maddie, and Sonic, the Master Emerald shatters, revealing the Chaos Emeralds inside, turning Sonic into Super Sonic. This whole scene was fan service at its finest. Watching Super Sonic make scrap metal out of the Death Egg robot is exactly what younger me would have lost his mind over. I mean, I still lost my mind over it today at 21, but that's beside the point. This part reminded me so much of the Sonic Unleashed opening cinematic. It was just so cool, and the fight even ends with a Sonic 06 reference. Sonic 06! Whoever's idea this was, I want to buy you a beer. Words can't describe how excited I was during this final act of the movie. Like, the whole movie leading up to this was good, but this was definitely the highlight for me. I couldn't stop smiling the entire time. Small nitpick though. Why were the Chaos Emeralds so friggin' tiny? After the fight is over, the Death Egg robot explodes and Robotnik presumably dies from the fall. Which, if this is Jim Carrey's last ever movie, at least we can say he went out with a bang. Oh, piss off. The film very wholesomely ends with Sonic back at the baseball field from the first movie, this time accompanied with Tails, Knuckles, Tom, and Maddie. The group play a quick game of baseball before driving off to enjoy some ice cream. The end. But there's a post-credit scene in this movie. And this one caught me completely off guard. If you're still watching and haven't seen this movie yet, I really don't want to ruin this for you, so keep watching at your own risk. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Paramount and SEGA really just said it and whipped out Shadow the Hedgehog at the end of this movie. Yep, the Shadow the Hedgehog. The one that uses a gun and says the bad words.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
I friggin' jumped out of my seat, man. Like, I was not ready for this at all. I also may have cussed in the theater when I knew damn well there were children in there, so, yeah, I'm sorry for that one. I'll be a bit more considerate next time. Just before Shadow was revealed, the movie showed that Agent Stone actually wasn't killed in the supersonic attack. He's very much alive and disguised as one of the gun soldiers. I found this pretty interesting, and I have a fun little theory as to how the plot of the third movie might go. So I'm gonna use this last part of the video explaining my thoughts for how Sonic 3 might pan out. Stricken with grief over the death of Robotnik, Agent Stone vows revenge on Sonic and Gun. While rummaging through Robotnik's old files, he'll stumble across an old document. Project Shadow. He'll discover and befriend Shadow, getting him on his side, planning to take over the world and destroy Sonic and friends in the process. I'm unsure if the Black Arms will make an appearance in the third movie, but I have a feeling that they might make some use of the whole Maria plotline. But I don't know, these movies have been pretty lighthearted so far, and Shadow does have a pretty dark backstory for a series about a blue cartoon hedgehog that runs faster than the speed of sound. And eats chili dogs. So, in conclusion, is Sonic the Hedgehog 2 a good movie that's worth your time? Yes, absolutely. Is it a bit of a mess with some flaws and pacing issues? Also, yes. If you're a huge fan of the series like myself, then you're gonna have an absolute ball with this movie. It's so close to being that dream Sonic movie that we've all wanted for so long. Personally, I'd still really love to see a fully 3D animated Sonic movie similar to how the opening of Sonic Unleashed looks, but I guess we're getting that in the form of Sonic Prime later this year anyway, so I can't really complain too much. And even for the moviegoers who aren't familiar with Sonic and his world, I still think this movie has a bit of something for everyone. It's perfectly harmless and inoffensive as far as a movie goes. There's definitely a lot more going on in this movie than the one that came prior, so it can feel a little overwhelming at times, particularly if you're not familiar with the Sonic lore. Like, really when you think about it, this movie tried to do a lot. It had the plot of Sonic 2, 3, and Knuckles in one. So, yeah, this movie did feel kind of crammed at times. But I'm very confident in saying that this movie is definitely an improvement over the first one. It's a lot more engaging, a lot more Sonic focused. It's not perfect, but you will definitely have a fun time with this movie. And there was no Metal Sonic in sight for this movie, Smire, so it looks like your little time travel expedition was a bit of a hoax, or as I like to call it, bullshit.
What are you talking about?
No, don't play that card. You said to me that Metal Sonic was going to be the end credit teaser for this movie.
When did I say that?
At the end of my Sonic discussion video. And by the way, where the hell's your pink shirt with the bananas on it? You wore that for one episode and now it's gone.
I don't even own a shirt that's pink and has bananas on it. Wait a minute. Oh no. Oh no, this is bad. This is bad!
Now what do you want about?
He didn't have a Chaos Emerald, did he?
Yeah, he teleported over by my computer. Why?
Oh jeez. Oh crud. Oh, we're in so much danger, FireAntoniyo. He's here. He's here.
Who's here, Smire? What are you talking about?
That wasn't me, FireAntoniyo. That was my evil doppelganger from another dimension. Smire Zamtonio.
Smire, mate. I don't know if you know this, but the whole trope of an internet personality having an evil twin from another dimension being intersected into a review about an entertainment product is the dumbest concept known to mankind.
Yeah, I guess you are kind of right about that.
Thank you. But if that is true, we are in deep shit.
We are in deep doo-doo.
Ah!